It is Shabbat Shirah, the not only Shabbat, but we call the whole week the week of song. And so just before I really use any more words, I thought maybe we will sing together. And I'm going to suggest the tune from Ozi V'Zimrat Yah. We'll just do it wordlessly. Um, the verse that comes, of course, from the song At the Sea that we chant in this week's Parsha. So feel free to join me. And the beauty of being on mute while we sing over Zoom together is you can sing as loud and as wildly as you like with any kind of harmony, whether it comes out discordant or harmonic. Just feel free to sing. And I'll just give one maybe kavanah intention that we allow ourselves maybe into that experience of maybe actually partially celebration, but also just shock and awe at how the physical world around us, the world we know, is changing and shifting in ways we just couldn't have expected, and how we might be feeling in the chaos of it all. Ay, 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 ay. Hi, 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 Oziv Zimrat Yah, Vayehi Li Lishua. From Exodus 15, verse 2. That's the first part. But the second part is Ze Eli ve'anavehu. Maybe that's the first half of the second part. Ze Eli ve'anavehu. I want to just talk about these words for a moment. I put the English and the Hebrew in the chat. Ze Eli ve'anavehu. Because in a time of tremendous disruption and change, like the world that the Israelites were living in Egypt and in their exit from Egypt, where can one find refuge? That's the question that I want to explore with these three Hebrew words, Ze Eli ve'anavehu, and that I want to use as an intention and guiding verse for our practice. Ze means this. Ze Eli, this is my God. In the Midrash, there are actually two beautiful stories that I just want to mention. I'm not going to read the whole Midrash. I gave it to one of them Actually, both of them on your source sheet. Rashi refers to them. But in one sense, our rabbis teach us that Ze Eli, what happened at the sea is that a maidservant, someone who was in the lowest status, right? The lowest caste of person in that society, saw the divine, saw the divine. Rashi points out a maidservant beheld at the Red Sea what even the prophets never saw. So everyone there had an actual personal, a Li, my God, experience of God. And the tradition is that they pointed, they said, Ze Eli, that's my God. They saw God, whatever that looks like, whatever that means. They saw the divine. And not just an abstract divine, the personal divine that only they could access. So maybe each Ze'eli was a different Ze'eli, was a different personal experience of the divine. But every single person there was having an experience. And the Midrash goes on in a separate place to say that the children who weren't supposed to be born in Egypt during that time, when Pharaoh had decreed that all of the male babies be killed, there's a midrash that all of these children were taken to a certain spot, and God's self, cared for them, nurtured them, even nursed them through a rock. It's a wild midrash. The earth swallowed them up when the Egyptians would come to see where is this land of babies. And there's this idea, there's this idea that that they were protected and made safe in the land by the earth itself and by God. And that each of these babies, pre-verbal, had this experience of the divine. And so when they were carried as infants through the sea, they too pointed and said, Ze Eli, this is my God. This is the one who took care of me. So the first step is to have an actual personal experience of the divine. And I'm just going to, well, maybe think about this in our practice, but I just want to suggest to you as a question, have you had an experience of the divine? Have you had a Ze'eli experience in prayer, out in nature, with a beloved, an experience of nurturing or care? Would you be able to recognize a Ze'eli moment? But we're leaving out the last word, so we have to go there. V'anavehu. And there are different ideas about what anavehu means. If you looked at different translations, it might say, and I will praise God, or I will beautify God, like nava, beautiful. But it can also mean a place. And that is what we have from Rashi again. He tells us about the Aramaic translation from Onkelos that translates this word as the sense of a dwelling, a naveh. And so then what we're left with in this half of a verse, this quarter of a verse, is this is my God. And I will make a place for that here now. I see this as a beautiful instruction for practice. And so I'm going to go ahead and invite you into your pose, your posture, sitting, standing, lying down, wherever your body is most comfortable, wherever you can allow your attention to rest, even if there is unpleasant sensation. Maybe we'll just take a moment to check. What are the sensations of this moment in our body? What's true? Where is there a little bit of Mitzrayim tightness? Maybe even pain. And if we're able, if it's not overwhelming, can we be curious about the sensations, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, that are happening right now? I feel a pull right now from my hip all the way to my knee. And I'm just putting my attention on it, noticing what the qualities of the sensations are. Noticing also where there might be spaciousness, where there might be positive sensations. Just noticing what's true and allowing it to be true, allowing it to be there. And I invite you, if your eyes are closed, that's great. If they're open, I invite you just to look forward and down, maybe about a foot ahead with a soft gaze. And again, if your eyes are closed, that's fine. The point of the soft gaze or the closed eyes is just to allow us to focus better on our experience in our bodies at this moment. And I'd like to invite you just to notice, if it's comfortable for you, the truth of your breath, the truth of the breath in and out, in breath, out breath, dynamic, without a need to adjust it, just noticing. And you might want to notice the space that is created by the in-breath. Oh, what is being entered? What is being filled? And also, I invite you to notice the space created by the out-breath. What is being released? What is being emptied? Maybe take a moment just to notice there is space for the in-breath. There is space for the air to come in. There is space for the out-breath, the exhale to go. How do we make space? Maybe we don't need to make it. Maybe it exists, and it is our practice to notice it. In that sense, maybe there is space for the divine, for our experience of the divine, Ze'eli, V'anavehu, and I will notice the place it exists in me. Could this be a moment? Could this breath be a moment? Ze'eli, the breath breathed in by the divine, released to the divine. Is there space now and here for Ze'eli V'anavehu? This is the divine. And I will notice the space. And by noticing, I will create a space here in the tumult for the divine. We'll practice. And when your attention fades, when your attention moves, as it does like the waves of the very sea, when it turns its gaze to thoughts, to planning, to rumination, noticing it is happening, is creating a space for the return to attention, to breath, to Ze'eli V'anavehu. Ay, 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 Thank you for your practice. On your source sheet, I didn't get to it, but there's a beautiful piece that I've read here before from Eddie Hillesum about how to, or the importance of making space for the divine in the most difficult of moments. That's a resource for you as you continue your practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy, so much for this beautiful practice today. Friends, let's hold that space. Please stay with us for a few moments. We create some space here for those of us who are in mourning or observing a yard site at this time, or for whom it's the custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish. And for the rest of us, it's an opportunity to stay present and offer our compassionate support for those who are grieving. Thanks to Natalie for sharing the words of the mourner's Kaddish on the screen. If you're remembering or honoring somebody today, feel free to add the name or name of such people in the chat after you recite Kaddish, and I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitkadal,
Dashme Rabba
Yama
Vyama
Yamis Malchute,
Dute
Chayefo
Chayefon
Yomechon, Chaye Defol Beit Israel, Agala Yuzman
Karim
Karim,
Karim
Imu
Amen
Amen. Yesh Rabba Barak Olam Amen.
Ishtara Ishtaba Vitlaman
Ramam
Vase
V'Naseh,
V'Hadar
Arab Yosef, Salam,
V'Shavit
Amen Kedusha.
Elamikil Bechata
Ela
V'Shahadar
Imkol Birchata V'Shirata
Ram
V'Shlachata
Diamai
V'Nechamata
Isha
Amiran V'Alma V'Imor
Shamaya Hayeyu
Yesh
Amen
Lama Rabba Nisraya Haim
Amen
Aleinu V'Yalkut
Say Shalom B'Mamar
Amen.
Say Shalom
Aseh Shalom
Am
V'Yamar
Israel
Aseh Shalom
Yoshvei Tevel
Inu
Imo Amen
V'Yalkut Amen Yalkol Yoshvei Tevel
Amen.
Imru Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. And if you're leaving us now, we hope you'll join us tomorrow. Rabbi Brian Yosef Shachter Brooks will be leading us tomorrow at our usual time. And Friday, we'll sit into Shabbat together, into Shabbat Shira together with Yael Shai. And we hope you can join us for either or both of those sets tomorrow or Friday. Thanks to Natalie Rushinoff for holding our text space together today, and to our teacher, Rabbi Dorothy Richman, for today's beautiful practice. You're welcome to continue to sit with that practice if you like. You can turn the sound off on your computer or device and just use the container of this community to hold you as you sit with that guidance. Or you can join us for a conversation about the teaching and the practice, share your reflections on the practice, or raise a question. And if you'd like to ask a question, you could put both reflections and questions in the chat. If you have a question, please preface it by writing question all in caps. And I'll keep an eye out for that and try to work your question into the conversation. Dorothy, as always, thank you so much. There are a lot of kind of paradigmatic passages in the Torah that I think serve so well as a frame for Jewish mindfulness meditation practice. We've got the burning bush and we have Jacob's ladder. And today you gave us, I think, a new one from maybe an unexpected place from, Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea. And I just, you said it there, like, I don't, it's one of those things just that, like, I never see that before. It's just right. It's just so perfect. So thank you for that. That was worth the price of admission right there. And it's just a couple of words, which adds to the beauty of it. It's right, really very accessible. Ze'eli ba'anvehu. And I wanted to I don't want to get too geeky here with the Hebrew, but I do want to kind of just stay with it and unpack it a little bit and just kind of immerse in that teaching. So, and forgive me if I missed something here, because I might have, but the way I heard, I'm just going to reflect back the teaching as I heard it, and maybe you can correct me or amend it. And welcome people in the chat also doing the same, like what they got, what's staying with you here. First of all, that midrash that everybody at the sea had this direct, unmediated experience of the divine, which is not too many religious traditions, I think, have that. Very powerful. And then later it happens again, I guess that's at Mount Sinai. So everyone has this experience of the divine, kind of that kind of transcendent moment. And that's my God. And I will make a space for it. I will allow it to permeate this moment, this space. That's what I got. Yes. Okay. So where I thought you were going to go was to focus on the zeh, the this. Because in Jewish mysticism, the word zeh, actually more zot, I guess, the feminine, is understood as a manifestation of divine presence. Shekhinah is associated with zot. So then you could read that verse, this moment, this breath, fill in the blank, is my God. And I will make an abode for it. I will make a home for it. And then to go even further, and then I'm going to shut up and I want to hear your riff on this, is that the anvehu, the word anvehu, like the root there, like you said, is about making an abode, making a home. And it also, in the causative form of the verb, like to make a home, adds this dimension of beauty, and I will beautify it. So that by making a home for it, we beautify it. We create you sort of bask in beauty in some way. So I'm kind of reflecting back what I heard, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm adding anything actually to what you taught, because in the meditation, you kind of wove the zeh in there, the this. I don't know.
It's beautiful, Mark. Many of you who are on the screen are also teachers and educators. I know from seeing some of the faces and the names. And so you know that preparing one of the biggest tasks and the most the biggest amount of time is not spent on collecting sources, but on shedding them, right? So I'm actually really thrilled, Mark, that you touched on all of the things that I wanted to say, but couldn't couldn't say because I needed to just say something very specific and allow for space, right? And creating
Mm-hmm.
space
Mm-hmm.
is actually so much of just chiseling away at what's there. but I feel really heartened because the zeh of the Shekhinah, of the most relatable aspect of the divine is what I was still trying to bring in the Zeh Eli, right? In the personalization of the God. There's also a beautiful piece from the Kutzker Rebbe, the great Hasidic Rebbe, that it's specifically Zeh Eli. You have to find your experience of God before you can get to the rest of the verse, which I didn't even go
Hmm.
to, Elohei
Right.
Avi. And then once you have your personal experience,
Mm.
you can connect into the sea, the stream of Jewish collective ancestral divine.
Preach, Rabbi, preach. Keep
Right.
preaching.
And exactly that beautiful thing of some people saying nave is beauty,
Hmm.
right? And it's like I will make my practice beautiful. So that can look like I'm going to sit on a gorgeous cushion, or I'm going to sit on the most comfortable fabric, right? Or as it's said in the Rashi, right? I'm going to buy a beautiful mezuzah, or have a lovely etrog, right? Or make a beautiful Shabbos table, right?
Hmm.
That's a whole understanding of this verse versus making a space and actually deciding to collapse them because really isn't that all one and the same?
Hmm.
Isn't a space for the divine at some level a space for beauty, even if it's terrible beauty, because it's also truth. Anyhow, so
Yeah.
all of it.
Thank you for that. That was great. And I'm glad, you're right. It's like there's not enough time really but even such a short, not so simple passage. Um, let's take Margaret's question here. Margaret, I hope I'm getting your question right. I'm a bit puzzled, but how can I make place for that which is isness itself? I like that word, isness. Nothing can be outside the divine. So I guess that has to do with the zeh, right? This is my God, which I kind of understand as the this is that isness, this aliveness, this this becoming, this tapping into the, I guess the parent way to resolve that, what seems paradoxical, is in a way that I think about Heschel talking about um, being fully present in the here and now taps us into eternity, that which is beyond time, the time and place, right? That's how we understand Shabbat. It's a moment in time that where we touch into eternity. So that's how I understand the Zet, like this moment, this experience, this sensation is kind of a portal into the eternal that we experience in the moment. I don't know, like how would you respond to that? How can I make a place for that which is kind of like a limited place for that which is uncontainable in a way?
It's a beautiful question, and I think it's the real question for the mystic,
Hmm.
right? The mystic sees the oneness, right? The mystic knows ein od milvado. There's nothing else beyond. And so I understand the question saying, how can you point to something
Hmm.
when when the finger and when everything is part of the all? And I mean, it, there may be some people who live there always, but I live in a broken world, in a
Right.
fractured world, in a world of fingers and toes and knees and aches and pains and growth and all the things of moments of chaos and moments of quiet. And they're both true, the wholeness and the brokenness. They're both true, but they're different levels of reality. And so when you're pointing, you're actually just bringing awareness to the truth that fully mystical oneness is always true, but it's generally our human experience that we don't always live in it. And so it's
Mm.
why I was careful in the instructions not to, or invitations, not to say make a place, but to notice the place that is there. Notice the space that is already there. So it's not creating anything that's not always there. It's putting our attention on it, which is the goal of practice anyway, right? It's allowing the truth of that mystic oneness to permeate, you know, the world of fracture that most of us live in.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said, Dorothy. Thank you. And that's my understanding of, Jewish mysticism in general. Of course, there's all kinds of flavors of Jewish mysticism, including ascetic, the one that's looking to be in that transcendent, not in the world of brokenness, but that's kind of feels like the minority view. In general, Jewish mysticism is committed to that kind of infusing the world of brokenness with awareness of the underlying oneness, right? And as that you're describing, and that's why we're here, because we're living in, we are, it's things are pretty darn broken, and we're not here to avoid that at all. We're here really to infuse that with this awareness that you're describing. And yeah, I guess that leads to a question. There's one thing to have the awareness of the transcendence, but I think for a lot of us who are struggling with the kind of desacralization, the desanctification, you might even say desecration of society and culture in some way, we want to reinfuse it with sense of sanctity, and compassion. The question really I'm going to ask you is that has to do with the implications of that awareness about responding with love, with compassion, et cetera. Like, that's not necessarily the case, but when we say Ze'e Livian Behu, when we practice that, let me make myself an abode for the divine and allow, experience that beauty. Where's love? Where's compassion in that?
It is the practice question is why we do this, you know. And I think, the simplest answer is to have clarity about how to enter the world of fragmentation with skill, strength, love, compassion, all the good things instead of just being roiled up as
Mm-hmm.
another part of the turmoil. And I think it's because I'm so deep right now into Rabbi Nachman's Seven Beggars story. Right, the whole point of the story, I'm not trying to make a commercial for the class,
It's
but
okay.
it's so fabulous. The whole premise of the story is that things that look like look like defects in the fragmented world are actually portals to superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of which realm we're in. And so I think that, you know, that is part of the work of practice is first being able to experience another reality enough that then you can allow it to help you see the reality you're usually in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it can start to have effect, right? Because now I'm in this storm, but I see it. I see it's a storm, and I don't have to be part of the storm.
Right.
And then I can decide what my strategy is to work with the storm, to let it pass, or to find the community that is the helpers, you know? or whatever it might be, but I just have more choices because I have more sight and more tools.
Again, really beautifully said. Thank you. And may this practice today, this beautiful practice that you've guided us, help all of us see more free, see more clearly the choices, and be more free, to get in moving through the sea, the turmoil of the sea, to help us get to the other side. So thanks so much, Dorothy, as always. A real gift.
Thank you,
And
Mark. Thanks, everyone.
thanks, Natalie, and hope to see everyone tomorrow to practice with